All right, welcome back to part 2 of this Sonic Academy course. In this video, we're going to be looking at project setup. Here I want to go over the process I do before I even get into making a track. I always tell people that I work with or teach that the key to making a track is to break your method down to a science. So here in this course, I'm going to be going over my science, so to speak. The first step for me really is inspiration. I think to just go out and write a track or start jamming out is great for some people. But for me, I like to have 2 to 3 tracks to vibe off of. It doesn't mean I'm going to go steal the sounds from the track or copy the track necessarily. What it means is that I'm going to use them for, basically overall feeling, and that's going to help, push my track in the direction that I want to push it in. So, at the end of the day, there's no real one way to write a track. There's multiple ways to arrive at the same location. You just need to find what works best for you. So with that being said, let's get started. I've literally just hit Command N on a Mac to start a new project. So we've got a brand new blank template here, which opens up with a couple MIDI channels and a couple audio channels. And then it's got the default reverb and delay. I'll just go ahead and say this now so I don't forget. I actually leave the default reverb and delay for a couple of reasons. Once I start kind of like writing stuff out, I like these, default plugins being here because it allows me to just start kind of experimenting with my sound. I might pop in something and push it over, or send it over to the reverb and go, no, that'd be better with a delay. And then I can go, okay, well, it might be even better with a delay that, I've added. So then I'll go ahead and send that somewhere else. Or sometimes I'll end up just using these. So they're really nice to just have them there as the default. Okay, so that's that. So first thing I want to do is load up Sample Magic's Magic AB plugin. And what this is a referencing tool. And what it does is it allows you to load up to 9 different audio wave files that you can A/B with your sound coming out of your DAW. So I like to use this periodically just to kind of check my track or compare my track or to make sure that it's standing up. And this is what I mean by inspiration. I might be at a lull in my track, or I might come to a point where I'm kind of feeling like, oh, what do I do next? What should I add? And I'll come back to my inspiration, which can help me either add something or maybe even take something away. So let's load up a couple reference tracks, and I've got a couple tracks that I've chosen for this particular project that we're working on. Cool. So these are 3 tracks that I've chosen for my inspiration, and I've used these to basically what I would say, catch a feeling from. So let's go through these and just kind of take a listen here real quickly. And let's see, we're gonna go over here to B. Cool. I love this track. It's got a big stompy kick, driving offbeat bass line, really cool, kind of like a dark vocal that moves through it, kind of gives it that mysterious, cryptic sound. And then it's got a really cool atmospheric texture running through the background, sharp percussion, really good track, really well done. Let's check this one out. Really cool track. Pretty stripped down, really minimal, but I like it. I like the atmosphere running through it. It's got that offbeat bass line. The kick is definitely a little bit more deep than the last track that we referenced. But I like this. I like the use of effects and sound design in this one. And the last one here. Really cool track. Again, nice use of effects, atmosphere. The bass line is definitely a little bit more driving than the last two. So that's good to keep us, upbeat and motivated. So yeah, those are my 3 tracks. And we'll also use this again. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but we'll use it again to compare our track 2 later on as we get closer to the mixing and mastering stage. Okay, so next. Now, I generally use a combination of VSTs, samples, and loops, and I'm actually a huge fan of using loops. But the way that I like to use my loops is by mangling them or cutting them up, or affecting them, basically taking the loop out of the box and kind of what I would say is making it my own. I'm fine to use loops straight out of the box, but I think that trying to give your track as much originality as possible is a really good thing. I know a lot of producers put tracks out and they're, it's just literally comprised of loops straight out of a pack, and that's okay. If that's if that's your gig, then more power to you. For me, making a track is definitely more of like a piece of art. So I try to, if I'm going to use someone else's art, I try to kind of make it my own the best I can. So to work efficiently, Ableton has a really cool feature where you can add folders to work from over here on the left-hand side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a folder that I've created specifically for this course, and it's called Sonic Academy, rightfully named. And that way I can go in and I can reference some packs that I purchased from the Sonic Academy site recently, which I will be using in this track that we're going to create. Build, use your own words, whatever you want to do. Anyway, so I've got some packs here. We're going to be digging in here and grabbing some sounds out of it to construct this track. Yeah. Okay, so we've got that. The next thing I want to do is start pulling in the tools that I use to write a track. And I think one of the coolest things about writing electronic music is the sheer amount of plugins and sounds that can be used. I know that most artists strive to dial in their own sound, which means that they probably generally use the same tools over and over to make their tracks. And of course, that's going to give them their own sound. I'll be the first to admit that for me, that can get a bit boring. I like to push and experiment within my own style, which I think ultimately has given me my own sound, so to speak. So before I start writing, I just start thinking about, what tool can I use to construct a certain sound that's going to give me, a feeling of not only having some originality, but kind of pushing the envelope. And so one of my favorite tools for pushing the envelope is Reactor. So I'm going to bring in a copy of Reactor. The other thing I'll do is I'm going to pull in Contact. I just picked up Outputs bundle, which has Substance and Exhale and Rev and Signal, and I've been really using a lot of these in my production, so we'll be digging into that for some sound design. So here I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that and give us a couple versions of Contact. All right, let's go ahead and pull in we're going to grab a copy of Complete Control. And I'm going to delete these two audio channels for now while we're pulling in our VSTs. And then no Mac Von track would be complete without, where are you, drum synths, Kick 2. Ever since Sonic Academy released Kick 2, it's literally gone in all my productions. I'm a huge fan of this really cool drum synthesizer. I can't say enough about this plugin. I really love it. Huge fan of Anna as well. So we're going to grab that and I'm going to duplicate it. Probably use a couple. We'll use a couple versions of that. Let's see here. Oh yeah, you know what? Let's grab Machine. Where's Machine? There we go. There we go. I like Machine, and you'll see why in another video. We're gonna use that. And I think that's enough. That's enough to get us started. So if I'm starting a track, that's kind of how I would get started. I would pull in some synths just to get me going. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and add those audio channels back over here. And I know for a fact that as I started to construct this track that we're about to do, right off the bat, I was thinking, oh, let's grab a Glitch Machines quadrant to do some cool atmospheric stuff. It's a really cool plugin, as you'll see soon. Matter of fact, let's just title this Atmos for now. That's going to be Atmos for track. And then this one, I knew that we were going to be doing a kind of like a dark, demented, pitched vocal, like you heard in the overview. And that was done with this cool plugin, Manipulator, which is just put out from Infected Mushroom. It's really cool for vocals. So we'll just title this Vox. So yeah, this is how the track started. I pulled in some VSTs. I knew I wanted to affect something with Quadrant, and I knew I wanted to do something with Manipulator. And this is kind of how a track starts. You're pulling in tools that you're going to use just to get your I always like to compare writing a track to doing a painting. Some people are good at just going and painting. For me, I've got to pick out my colors. I've got to get my canvas ready, and then I'll go in and have some sort of inspiration to start, painting that picture. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start setting up my send return channels. I use a lot of, as you can hear in the track, I use a lot of sound design, a lot of effects to create the atmospheres that I do. And in order to do that, I use a lot of send channels. Sometimes I will put effects directly on the instrument or sound that I'm using, but for the most part, I just set up some send effects, mainly for efficiency. If I've got one sound that I want to affect, rather than using the same effect on two channels, it's better to set up a send. That way I can just, turn a knob and get the job done. So for this particular track, I'm going to go ahead and add about 5 more send channels. So shortcut key for that on a Mac is Alt-Command-T. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the other way you can add it is by right-clicking, of course, and just choosing Insert Return Track. So I know that I used Valhalla's Vintage Verb. And while we're here, and you'll hear me repeat myself a lot, but that's just because I'm trying to make sure that I, set us up for success as we move through the track. And one of the things that I always like to say over and over is, prepare for the future and work smart. So in working smart, I'm going to go ahead and add an EQ here that we're going to, use to cut out any frequencies that we don't want as we send our sounds to these channels. So I'm just going to copy that, and we can paste that on our other send channels here as we move along. The next effect that I want to load up is a reverb, which is here. It's called 2CB2. This is my favorite reverb. I use it in all my tracks. It's just, it's an amazing, amazing tool. You know, this video is not about how cool this is, but anyway, check this out when you have time. It's a really cool plugin. And again, we're gonna paste the EQ here. The next thing we've got is let's see, what are we on here? Dub Machines by Surreal Machines, and you can purchase this on the Ableton site. It's a I think it's a Max for Live device. And it's basically these tape machines. I believe they're modeled after tape machines. I remember when reading about them when I bought them years ago, but I'm not completely 100% sure of all the details. But again, this thing is just awesome. And again, pasting our EQ. Next thing I'm going to load up is Reactor, but I'll be using the effects version of Reactor. And I'm going to be loading up one of my favorite, I say that a lot, loading up one of my favorite, they're all my favorites, right? Or else I wouldn't be using them. So we're going to load up Molecular, really cool, delay. It's like a modular effects unit. You can load up these modular effects, and there's all kinds of stuff, delays and frequency shifters and reverbs and choruses, and you can literally make your own effects with this thing. But I'm kind of a preset junkie, as you'll see, so I'll just dial up a preset and call it a day. And then the last channel I'm going to be loading up, again, Native Instruments, because I'm a Native Instruments fanboy, Replica here. Boom. And the EQ. I forgot the EQ on the last one, didn't I? Okay, there we go. EQ. Okay, there. We've got all of our effects loaded up with EQs, right? Did I get them all? Okay, good. All right. So I know what presets I used for these effects, and I'm going to go ahead and dial in those presets. But just to make a note, if you're following along and you have some of these, or if you don't have these, just load up something equivalent, and you'll it'll work fine. Actually, and I should say that, if you are following along the tutorial and you don't have something, don't let it discourage you, and don't think that you need to run out and go buy machine just because I've loaded it up. Just listen to the concept, or listen to what I'm doing, and apply your own method. Don't get too attached on the particulars here, but just take the method, so to speak, and apply your own, and you'll be right as rain. So let's open these up. For the Valhalla Vintage Verb, I know I used the gated big ambience gate. Yeah, it was. Okay, big ambience gate. Yeah, I love this one. And then over here on the 2CB2, I used it was something slap, distant slap. Yeah, there we go. One of my favorite little presets here. And so that's all set up and ready to go. And then on diffuse, it's going to pull me over here to the presets, diffuse presets, and it's got insert and send. We want send because that's what we're doing. We're doing a send effect. Cavern send was the one that I used. And then for molecular, it was under rhythmic, and it was, what was it? Pumping Dubby Smear. Yeah, that one. Okay. And then for replica, should be Stereo Flex. Stereo Flex. There we go. Okay, so there we go. We're almost ready to rock. So I've got the effects that I want loaded up with some EQs, so I can start. I can shape those later on as I start sending sounds over here to the effects. There's probably going to be some low frequencies that we're going to want to cut out, so we'll use the effects to cut those out as we move along. So right now I'm in clip view, and this is about the extent of clip view. Oh, one more thing, setting up for success, right? So in what I need to do is I'm going to shift select my channels, and I'm going to get these turned down here. So I'm just going to dial in -10. So basically I've selected all the channels here and I've turned them all down to -10. And that's basically to allow for headroom as we move along. If I left them all at the default at 0 dB, we're basically going to start clipping the master over here. So turning these down is going to ensure that we write the track around a safe volume that allows us to have room at the end for our mix down and master. Okay, so yeah, this is it. This is how I start my tracks. I get my effects loaded up. I get my VSTs loaded, and once I'm here, get my volumes turned down. From here, it's a flip over to the arrangement view. And now we're over here. And once I'm here, again, I'll start working smart. I know that my kick I want at the top. I'm going to use Anna, Sonic Academy's Anna, to write my bass line. So I'm going to put those up there. Reactor, I'm thinking, I'm going to use for to do some atmospheric stuff. Contact is going to be some sound design. We're going to write a lead line with complete. Machine's going to help us find some what I like to call enforcements. We're going to reinforce our drum groove later on as we write that. We've got quadrant loaded up, which is going to work with Reactor with our atmosphere, and we're going to record a vocal to go in with our track. Okay, that about wraps up the project setup. Our next video, we're going to be going over the kick, and yeah, looking forward to it. So I will see you in the next video, and yeah, we're about to have a lot of fun. Cheers.